Call Melissa Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's such a privilege and an honour to stand in the House today as a member of this John Key-led government. And I'd like to begin my contribution tonight by joining the many speakers before me by congratulating you, Mr. Speaker. May you be blessed with the wisdom and patience to watch over the proceedings in this House and this chamber, which at times can be very challenging. And over the last term of Parliament, when I've actually been sitting here, when you've been presiding over the House, you have been nothing but fair. So congratulations once again on your return to the Assistant Speaker's position, and hopefully you'll be a good advisor to the new colleagues who actually join you in the chair. And I'm particularly just a tad concerned about Mr. Trevor Millard. I don't know how he's actually going to go as this new Assistant Speaker with his performance in the House, but no doubt he knows the procedures probably better than anybody else, and I hope that he will be very fair as well, and his colleagues actually attest to that. I know that many members have actually ended their speeches by thanking the people in their electorate. I like to begin my speech by thanking the people of Mount Albert. Although I am actually not the elected member of Mount Albert electorate, more than 14,359 voters gave their party vote to National, which meant that in a very, very strong national seat, of the former Labour Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Helen Clark, and the former Labour leader, David Shearer, National actually won the party vote. And as one of our National Party stalwarts, a former Deputy Mayor of Mount Albert, Alice Wiley, actually said, and I quote, "Darling, we've never won anything in Mount Albert, but we have this time round." So I'd like to thank the people of Mount Albert for giving us their party vote. And the candidate vote also improved from 7,400 in the previous election to more than 10,000. So we did, I think, quite well. And I'd like to thank all of our volunteers who actually helped us get there, tirelessly delivering tens of thousands of pamphlets, making thousands upon thousands of phone calls and door knocking, rain, hail or shine. Thank you all for making it happen. And Mr. Speaker, the last 2 days have been full of pomp and ceremony, and I feel very privileged to be sitting in this House of Representatives for the 51st Parliament. And I welcome my new colleagues right across the House, and I echo the Prime Minister's advice. Enjoy your time here. You fought hard to get here. 3 years actually fly by very, very quickly. Make it count. Make your stay here count, and may you be returned in the next term of Parliament as well. And on that score, I'd like to acknowledge the return of Kelvin Davis and his colleagues who are actually returning to Parliament, and particularly you, Kelvin. Mate, I don't know of any other, Kelvin Davis? No, particularly Kelvin Davis, because I don't know any other Labour MP who got such a resounding applause in a national election campaign night, apart from you, mate, for winning your seat and preventing the other people from coming into this Parliament. So well done. And Carmel, welcome you back. Nice to see you back. And Stuart Nash and Ron Mark. Congratulations once again. The general election 2014 has given the National Party a very strong mandate to govern for the next 3 years. And together with our partners, ACT Party, United Future and the Māori Party, we will continue to give New Zealanders a stable, effective and inclusive government. And we are focused on returning to surplus, and our long-term fiscal objective remains to reduce core Crown debt to 20% of GDP by 2020. We will keep government spending under control. Around $1 billion of the operating allowance in each budget will be used to increase spending, with the remainder set aside for tax reductions and further debt repayment, depending on economic and fiscal conditions. We plan to build a more productive and competitive economy, supporting more jobs and higher incomes. And this is set out in the Business Growth Agenda, which contains about 350 individual initiatives which will be progressed and more added during this term of Parliament, sir. This business agenda is doing a great job of giving companies and confidence to invest and grow jobs in New Zealand while carefully managing the environmental impacts. This national-led government will continue to pursue high-quality trade agreements, including negotiations with my home country, my birth country rather, Korea, and the Trans-Pacific Partnership, while ensuring that New Zealand's best interests are always served. We want our exporters to be able to compete on an equal footing on other economies and further lift our exports. We want to increase our international footprint, so we will make more investments in New Zealand trade and enterprise to expand the number of businesses with it works with. Just to give the kind of benefit that New Zealand will reap from an FTA, such as the one that we are hoping to get from Korea, is that currently New Zealand exporters are paying in excess of 89% tariff for such things like butter. They're paying more than 45% in tariff for kiwi fruit. They're paying more than 40% in tariff for beef exports to Korea. And they're not competing with Korean products, so they're competing with products from places like Chile, where Chile already has an FTA agreement with Korea and their tariffs are coming down. Unless we secure an FTA with Korea, our products will no longer be competitive in a market in Korea. So our exporters may not be able to export to Korea because our produce will be too expensive for Korean people to purchase. It is imperative, therefore, that we secure these FTA deals so our export markets are secured and also diversified, that we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket, that our markets are all over the world, including Asia, where there's a growing middle class. Even in previous term, I've talked about the growth in population in countries like Indonesia. More than 150 million people live in Indonesia, and the growth of population is the whole of New Zealand. 4.5 million people every year are born in Indonesia. A big focus over the next 3 years for this national-led government is about rewarding New Zealanders for their hard work. We will be further reducing ACC levies, which will be the equivalent of a tax cut for households and businesses. And I'm very happy about that, because by reducing income taxes for lower and middle-income earners in 2017, if physical conditions actually allow. And that is, I'm sure, a welcome news for everybody. New Zealand's economy grew by 3.9%, sir, to 30th of June. While some countries are struggling, we have had an economy that has been growing. And that is, some people have called it the, a role model for the world economy. For me, the fact that our average wage has grown by $2,500 in the past 2 years, and they're forecast to grow even more. An estimated 83,000 jobs were created in the past year, and Treasury forecasts around 150,000 more jobs to be created by mid-2018, sir. Unemployment is coming down. Treasury forecasts that it will fall to 4.5% by mid-2018, from 5.6% now and well over 6% a year ago. That is achievement. That is result that this government has actually, this national-led government has delivered to New Zealanders. Mortgage interest rates is also very an interesting thing, because it is to remain lower for longer than they did in 2008. Back in 2008, it was sort of somewhere around the 11% mark, which is slightly lower, I guess, than when I first bought my own house. My first home, I think I paid in excess of 18% interest rate. And I know which one I'd rather have, the rate that is currently offered now, which is around 5.2, I think, and then the 18% that we paid back when I bought my first house, or back in 2008 when Labour was actually in government, which was around 11%. So the new KiwiSaver Home Start Grant will be introduced next year to double the support a first home buyer can get if they are buying or building their new home. And it has to be welcomed by our first home buyers, sir, because, two people buying a home is very I never knew this until I actually owned my own home, but having a quarter-acre section that people talk about is the dream that all Kiwis have. It may not be the quarter-acre section now, it may be an apartment that they actually prefer because it's smaller and easier to maintain, but owning their own home is a possibility under this national government. I commend this.
I call Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to be back in the House, even if I was being interrupted by